Welcome back
to Historia,
where all your dreams come true.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Kylie.
And welcome to part 2 of Cleopatra's Week.
Woo! I know you all have been waiting for this one.
Yes, it's the drama unfolds even more.
We're going to serve you that hot tea.
So much tea.
And you can put your own sugar in it if you want.
Oh yeah, that's like a British thing, isn't it?
Yeah, they got to put that sugar cube.
Well, I thought they put milk in it too. That's what
Yes.
I heard.
Why did I do that? Yes! you can also put your milk in it too, but we're going to serve you the tea and then you're going to decide what you want to do with it.
Boil it.
You can boil it, sip it slowly, put it on ice. Ooh.
See, I
That's
like
how I
iced
drink
tea.
it. Yeah, but I don't like sweet tea, so it has to be unsweetened.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Ooh, you and James would fight.
He likes sweet tea?
Oh yeah, that's the only tea he can drink. I like flavored tea.
Yeah.
I like my peace tea. I call that fake tea.
Yeah, that's okay. I like just a classical, like, green tea bag.
See, I can't do green tea. I like
Really?
black tea.
Oh, I love black tea. Black tea's so good. I like how we're talking about tea. All right, well.
Dutch Post has a really good tea.
That's true.
Drama!
A minute in and we're just talking about tea. All right, so we're going to just dive in because I know you all are just waiting to hear that hot gossip, so.
So last week we were covering the beginning of Cleopatra.
Previously on Keeping Up with the Ptolemies.
Literally, we had Cleopatra who got exiled after being completely hated by all of her people. But she couldn't stand it. She decided she wanted to get back and heard that Julius Caesar was in town and was like, ooh, who is this man? I must go meet him, even though I chose his enemy for the Civil War.
So she found the nearest rug and rolled up in it.
And boom, she appeared saying, hello, Mr. Caesar.
I speak Italian.
I speak Italian. How could I
assist you?
How could you assist me? And there we have her and Caesar together forever until he died of his own people, of his own officials, stabbing him in the back.
Those are real
remember.
backstabbers.
I can't remember, was it like 41 times or was it
It was
14?
something crazy like that. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a lot of times. Anyway, Caesar is dead. Love of Cleopatra's life is gone. The father of her firstborn child, little Caesar.
He's hot and ready. I miss Caesar.
So now she was on her own.
Dun dun dun.
Lost in Rome. Not really knowing which way to go, which way to do, what to do.
Lost in Rome? Is that a movie?
When in Rome.
Oh. Same thing.
So here she is, just sitting on the step. Crying of her loved one gone. But homegirl got over it real quick. She was like, okay, Caesar is dead. I'm far away from home. I have no reason to be here anymore. She's like, see ya. She's like, I gotta go.
I mean, yeah, why else would you stay?
Now, we remember Caesar's brutal death. But of course, Cleopatra, she's like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't belong here anymore. These Roman people hate me. So she's like, let's go home. Let's go home. So about a month after Caesar's death, Cleo decided it was her time to go. Taking Ptolemy with her, she set herself right back on the Egyptian throne. So she just like kicked open the door to the throne room and was like, yo, Ptolemy, out. And he was like, okay, bye. Because he was like, I'm not dealing with this.
Again, he's not going to argue with her.
No. He saw what happened to his brother, and he was like, no,
I'm not drowning.
So Cleopatra sat right back in her throne and was like, I'm ready to rule. Let's do this. And of course, the people were like, oh shit, here we go again. Like, round 2.
Honestly.
Now, taking her role back onto the throne, Cleopatra started to think she was becoming the real mother goddess, Isis, because we remember the story of Osiris. Her husband dies, and she becomes a single mother, but then she has her son Horus. So she's like, I'm ISIS. She's like, I literally am going through all of this. Like, I am a single mother who has had her husband or loved one, well, they weren't married, but her lover die, the love of her life, and now I just have my child. So she's like, I'm ISIS. She's like, this is great. Of course, everybody was like, this lady is just wild. I'm like, this is just going wild. Now, not all calm stayed in Egypt when she came back, and like literally like in no time, Ptolemy the 14th dropped dead. He was gone. Yeah,
what?
so she was like,
He just died one day?
Yeah, like just at like it was.
One day he's just like, all right, bye.
Yeah, it wasn't even that long that she returned back to Egypt and he died, and she was like, well, shit, like, what am I going to do now? So she had to make Little Caesar her co-regent. Because a man always has to be in charge. And I'm like, why did you never change that?
He's not that old, isn't he?
No, he's like probably like 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at that point, she was just pretty much like not like throw him off to the side, because she knew that like he was going to be a ruler one day, but she was like, a 4-year-old can't rule.
Right. So
she was just like, okay, Ptolemy's dead. Make my son co-regent. Like, let's just do it. She's like, I'm not going to marry my... He is now, or Little Caesar is now co-regent with his mama. She didn't plan on marrying him, though. She was just like, I don't need a man to marry anymore. I'm doing my own thing.
Can you marry a 4-year-old?
They can do whatever the fuck they want. It's Egypt.
That's fair.
Now, you would expect this time around Cleo would get her shit together and help her people.
Yeah.
No, she didn't get that memo.
Of course not.
No. Instead, she didn't adjust to the drought from 43 to 41, which caused the initial issue of famine. Mm-hmm. So another friggin' crop shortage and just the drought.
Yeah.
You would think she would figure out a better way, but it's also like, isn't there supposed to be people to help you like navigate that? But I feel like she just didn't give a shit because it didn't affect her. She had so much else going on with the world that she just didn't really care too much about like her people and the fact that like they all were starving. Mm-hmm. She was just like, whatever, like this is a problem, what can we do? Cleo, during this time, instead of people teaming together to freaking exile Cleo again, they're like, okay, it didn't work the first time. Yeah. And it caused like a huge war here in Alexandria. It was a big problem. We can't do what we did again. We can't just exile her. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people started to question the afterlife of like what was going to come next, because they weren't going to have the proper things to push them into the afterlife. Because as we have talked about with Osiris's story, is that the Egyptians took the afterlife very seriously. Yeah. So with Cleopatra, pretty much just having all of her people starve, people started to fear what was going to come next in their afterlife, because a lot of them didn't think that, like, well, we're being taxed pretty high, we're not getting food, so I don't know how we're going to be able to cross into the afterlife if we're not going to have a proper burial, to have like all of our grave goods with us. So everybody was just terrified of what was going to come next, because really Cleopatra wasn't providing what they needed for their living life, but also for what to come in their afterlife. Dang. So people started to become very fearful of this. Now, Cleo was preoccupied. She had no care for what these people were feeling. She had other shit going on that she just kind of was just like, I got other stuff to deal with. And one thing was focusing on Arsinoe. Last week, we knew that Arsinoe was the husband of Ptolemy the 13th, who was the ruler that Cleo had murdered or had drowned in the Nile after she took back the throne. Now, Arsinoe, she sent her off to Italy as if you remember, and kind of just kept an eye on her, just left her to do her own thing. Well, she found out that Arsinoe got done with her imprisonment and had intentions to come back to the Egyptian area. So she was like, no, kill her.
Oh.
So she had people go and assassinate her sister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because she was like, I have a feeling that Arsinoe is going to come back and do terrible things to have me no longer rule. She's like, I'm not going to have this. I should have just killed her in the first place.
Yeah, I'm surprised she lived that long.
That's what I'm saying. So, yeah, she did. She had Arsinoe murdered. Go figure. But that's what you do. You kill your siblings.
10 out of 10 does not recommend.
No. In ancient Egypt, that's what you do. That's a sport.
Right.
Good Lord.
When you're bored, you're just like, I'll kill him.
Oh, gosh. With Caesar now also gone, she thought relations with Rome were over with. She really thought, well, I no longer have any ties with Rome since the love of my life is done. But she was far from that. She was far from relations with Rome. Being a dean. No. On the other side of the pond, Rome was struggling on deciding who was next to rule. So now that Caesar was dead, they're like, we gotta have someone else take charge. Who are we gonna have? So they had two potential people. We had Mark Antony. This was Caesar's second in command, the military. He was like, I totally deserve it. Because if you remember, for Alexander the Great, Ptolemy was his second in command. So when Alexander died, Ptolemy took the throne.
Oh, yeah.
For Egypt. But in this case, he was like, Mark Antony was like, I deserve the throne. But then there was Octavian.
Oh.
So this was Caesar's great nephew. Technically, not only was Mark Antony the second in command for Caesar, but he was also like a second cousin.
Okay, so he's related at some.
Yeah, he's like loosely related, but with Octavian, it was Caesar's great nephew, so he was the legal heir to the throne. So they both were like, I deserve it. And they looked at each other like, what? So they kind of were just like, okay, let's see who can do it. So they kind of like did for a while through like this whole ordeal with Cleopatra. They kind of were like doing this side by side to see who was greater and who could be like the ruler. It was like a competition in a sense. I'm like, Rome, get your shit together. Come on.
Right.
It's like, just have your... Then I'm like, oh, democracy, if they have like a whole election and stuff, and I'm like, that's not even the case. It just comes down to who's gonna let the other live and who's gonna kill the other. We'll see.
Fair.
Now, both wanted to rule and sought Egypt's military assistance, and I'm like, why? I'm like, they honestly could not do anything. I don't know why you would want their assistance, but of course, with like their previous relationships with Egypt, they're like, well, Egypt is a pretty powerful country. Like, let's look to them. So of course, like they both were, hey, how would you like to do? Like, you want to be on my team, or do you want to be on my team? Like both of them were just like, so who's it gonna be? It's kind of like the whole like Pompey and like Caesar situation.
Right.
Which is funny because she chose Pompey, but she ended up with Caesar.
That is very ironic.
So, I'm just like, go figure. Now, Cleo, choosing based on Caesar's relationship, chose Mark Antony to be allies with. Now, she definitely chose Mark Antony because it was her second in command. And they kind of ran into each other, like, every now and then. Like, the book that I was reading was saying that, like, they had to have ran into each other since it was his second in command.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it wasn't, like, just full-on conversations that they had with one another, but they probably just, like, saw each other from, like, across the room or just...
Right.
Kind of, like, whenever Caesar was doing, like, some political shit, he was there. So, of course, she was going to choose Mark Antony because she's like, you're the closest thing that I have to Caesar.
Yeah.
That I have to Caesar left. So, of course she would choose him, and of course Octavian was like, ugh, I guess I gotta try harder. Damn. Which he does, actually. Now, it is almost definite that Cleo was going to meet, like, Antony as soon as possible. She was like, okay, so I chose Antony to help support, and of course Antony was like, girl, we gotta meet up, like, we gotta figure out our situation, our allies and stuff, like, how are we gonna defeat Octavian so I make sure I'm the true ruler?
Mm-hmm.
So Octavian reached out to her, and they both decided to meet in Tarsus, and Cleo, and that to have Cleo to have to, sorry, my words aren't making really any sense to what I wrote down. So she was pretty much going to Tarsus to make sure that there was a protector for her land.
Oh, okay.
That was her intention for it. She did not give a fuck about Rome. She was just like, I need someone to protect my land because this isn't going well. Like, my people are hating me and feeling very lost. Their military, honestly, was not that strong. So I don't know why Rome wanted to reach out to them for military assistance. But she was just like, I need someone to protect my land from everybody else. Especially Rome, which I'm just like...
Interesting.
Dude, they can come and take you anytime, because Rome is the only one who's looking at your land, let's be honest. And your siblings, probably.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she was just like, our meeting is going to be for me in explaining how you are going to protect my land, pretty much. And, of course, like, Antony was like, no, I need you to help me win to become the next ruler for Rome. And she's like, whatever, let's make a deal.
Yeah.
Let's make a deal. So they did. Now, in meeting Antony, Cleo arrived by river, dressed...
Fancy.
Right? Dressed as...
A rug? No, I'm just kidding.
No. Sorry. Dressed as a representation of Aphrodite / Isis.
Ooh, of
yeah,
course.
so looking real pretty, real dreamy, real glittery, and just like jeweled out and stuff, making herself look good. And charmed his pants off.
Of course.
Because that is what Cleo does best.
Oh, yeah.
She knows how to make her presence known, knows how to come in and be like, hi, Antony.
Yeah.
How can I help you? How can you help me?
Right.
What can we do together? And of course he's like, oh my god. Oh my god. And of course he's like 13 years younger than her. He's like, this older woman's talking to me. Oh my god.
Fangirling.
Oh my god. He's like, this beautiful woman. How could
it's giving
I
me
never?
attention. Oh my god.
Exactly. And I think that was like the number one thing too, is that like she knew how to make a guy fall in love with her.
Right.
In a sense, except her own siblings.
They saw right through her.
Yeah, but with like Mark Antony, he's like, I see what Caesar sees in you now. Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
You're incredible. And she's like, I know. What can we do together? Like, how are you going to protect my land? Because I feel like a lot of her intentions were like, not really so much on love, but just, how are you going to protect me?
Yeah.
So, and I think it wasn't only just for like other people, but I think she wanted that protection if her people uprised again. Mm-hmm. So she could have that additional support for them to be taken care of. So she could be like, do not remove me from the throne. It will not end well.
Fair.
I was like, at that point, just let her die it out. So, but then again, like, everybody else is going to die it out. So it's
a struggle.
It is. It really is a struggle. So, of course, like, Antony fell in love and, like, went back to Alexandria with her. He was like, okay, let's go, and, like, trailed her like a lost puppy. Boom! 9 months later, twins were born.
Twins?
Yeah,
what?
She had twins.
What are their names?
So, Cleo would name them Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. This means the sun and the moon. So, she...
Cute.
Mm-hmm. So she took those names very serious. Of course, she wanted to add like that because Rome was a part of their heritage.
Yeah.
So, of course, she wanted to add that, but she also, like, the first names had to be
Yeah.
Egyptian.
Of course, yeah.
Because, like, that's also
You
where
had
they were
to.
born.
Yeah.
Now, this relationship, like, as soon as she had the kids, their relationship would be abrupted when Antony just left Egypt to go marry Octavian's sister, Octavia.
He just left?
Yeah.
Oh.
He was just like, hey, so Octavian is saying that, like, we could work together if I marry his sister, so I'm gonna leave.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so he just, like, completely dipped. And so she was a single mom again. She was just like,
damn.
Okay, like, I guess I'm on my own for now. So I can see, like, that being, like, a heartbreak. Honestly, I don't know how she could ever take that guy back. Drama. Keeping up with the Ptolemies.
She's like, I just don't understand why he left me.
Pretty much her.
Get the camera out of my face. He's like, Mom, you okay? The babies are just like, ah! Oh god, we have a whole show going.
Honestly. So yeah, she was pretty sad. But yeah, he did it to settle, like, the feud that was going on with Octavian, because he was just like, what can I do to make this better between us? And Octavian was like, marry my sister.
Well, why not?
And he was like, okay. So he's like, bye, Cleo. I'm going back to Rome.
Okay. Sure, he talked just like that.
So he left Rome. Or he left to Rome. Now, Cleo didn't let this get to her. She continued to rule her country. She was like, I am still a badass bitch. I have 3 children, no husband, and my son is my co-regent, but I am still not going to let this get to me. I am going to rule my country. And you know what? For a short time, it actually went well. There was no big drought that was going on. She knew what she was doing.
Good.
The war started to be won in her favor.
Yes.
Agriculture was starting to flourish in the land.
Woohoo.
She was like, okay, I got this. I got this in the bag. I got this single motherhood in the bag. I'm just the mother goddess Isis. Like, I'm doing it. My people don't hate me for once. I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And of course, when you go back to your ex, it all ruins everything.
God damn it.
But whatever. So around 37 BCE, Antony decided Octavian was not helping in any way. He started to believe, he was like, Octavian should not be in charge. I should be in charge. So he was like, I'm going to need help to get Octavian out of the picture. He's like, I don't think this is good. So what he ended up doing was that he needed help from his baby mama. He was okay, so I have 2 children with Cleo. I think I can still mend our relationship and get her to help me out.
Yeah.
So, of course, he decides to meet then. He reached out to Cleo. It was like, hey, honey, can we meet? Like, I really want to see you. And she's like, okay.
New phone, who dis?
New phone, who dis? But, of course, she was just like, a guy wants to be with me? Like, a guy that I have children with? Like, yeah, let's meet. So they decided to meet in Anatoch, where Antony persuaded her to help, and that she could help in that time to rule over some of the territory. So he came up and was like, I want your help to help me. Like, if you help me, you will rule more than just your land of Egypt. You can rule more. But the funny thing is that Antony had no right to give any of this to Cleopatra.
Yeah.
Like, he had no right to be like, yeah, you can take over this part or you can take over this part. So pretty much he was just giving her free stuff to, like, overrule when he had no right to. So pretty much he was just like, you can be more powerful. And she's like, I want that. She's like, I dig it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So he follows suit with campaigning all over around, like, Europe, or around, like, that area of, like, Europe and, like, around the Rome area. But he failed and lost quite a bit of allies. Like, his campaigning was not successful. They're like, I don't like where you're going. I don't like what's going on. They're like, I'm not really so much of a fan of you. And of course they're like, with Cleopatra, like this foreign lady, like, no, we don't like this. This isn't really good.
Yeah.
So, but that didn't get in the way of their relationship.
Of course
Because not too long after, they had another kid.
Yeah, I was waiting for kid number 4.
Yeah, kid number 4, Ptolemy Philadelphus.
The hell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe, I think that's where Philadelphia
I was
comes
gonna
from.
say, it sounds like Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's literally Philadelphus. I mean, it's not the worst name, but it's like
I've just never heard
Ptolemy
that.
again. Okay.
Right?
Now, Antony, much like Caesar, fell deep in Cleopatra's eyes and just her charm of just wanting more for her and his children. He was like, not only was he failing in his campaigns, but then he came with the idea of just like, I want my sons to rule and my children to rule all over the world, or all over the Mediterranean that Rome rules. And of course, there's just like, they're foreign children. Why? And of course, he was just like, I want all of our children to be on some sort of throne. So for Cleo's firstborn, Ptolemy Caesar, he would rule Egypt. So this was our idea, like that Caesar, like little Caesar, would rule Egypt, and then Alexander Helios would rule Armenia, Media, and Parthia. And then Philadelphus would rule Syria, Sicilia, and Phoenicia.
Oh.
So he wanted all of his children to rule those areas that Rome had pretty much gained territory of. And of course, everybody in Rome was just like, this is not going to happen. They're like, no. It's like, you're not even doing that well with your campaigns. You're failing quite a lot.
Yeah.
There's no way that your children, like the only positive one that's going to get a title is Cleopatra's firstborn. Like, your other children are not going to be that relevant to do it. Because they're like, we're pretty sure Octavian's going to kick your ass. Like, that's no problem. And of course, he just, with them, he was so infatuated with the idea that his and her kids could really be something more. And it's just like, maybe. Yeah. But it's just like, you were so greedy and power hungry of wanting to do these things that, like, you really didn't take into consideration the strategy on how to do it.
Yeah.
So, like, they had good ideas, but their execution wasn't well done. So, go figure. Now, a problem that would begin to brew would be Octavian's impatience. So, Octavian was kind of sitting back in the chair and was just like, what the fuck are they doing? He was just like, they're literally just running around, having children, doing their own thing, thinking that they're really going to get the throne here in Rome. He was like, there's no way. So he started to get impatient with Antony because he's seeing him fail at these campaigns, but he's just like, this guy really thinks that he's going to beat me. And then he's also very much disrespected because Antony's running off with Cleopatra everywhere instead of Octavian's sister Octavia. Yeah. He's like, you have a wife, my sister nonetheless, and here you are running off having children with this foreign woman. Right. How dare you? So of course, like, Octavian was like, I am not doing this. Now, with Octavia, he decided that he was going to do his own thing and that he was pretty much going to divorce Octavia. He was just like, I do not want to be with her anymore. I want to be with Cleopatra. So, and he did this publicly. So not only did he like freaking embarrass Octavian and Octavia, but like humiliated them to be like doing that publicly, to be like, I'm going to be with this foreign woman. Yikes. And of course they were like, what the fuck? So of course Octavian was like, No. He not only then saw Antony as an enemy, but he also then saw Cleopatra as an enemy. He was like, because of this woman, she has caused so much problem in Rome. She needs to be stopped. Like, I cannot deal with this anymore. He's like, I'm over her. I'm over this whole debacle. He's like, I could be just running both Rome and Egypt right now. He's like, I'm fucking tired of them. I'm gonna go end this. He's like, I'm over it. And of course, like, I get it. It's just like, your whole family was humiliated. This guy keeps running circles around everybody. And you just want to take charge because technically you're the legal heir to do it.
Yeah.
But of course, like, with, you see, like, Mark Antony and Cleopatra's whirlwind romance, you're just like, wow, oh my gosh, they just want to be together. And it's like, I don't know. If Julius Caesar was still alive, I'm pretty sure she would still be with him.
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That was her love.
Her first love. Her true love.
Yep.
Now, he noticed that as she once chose Pompey over Caesar, that Cleopatra was causing more problems. He was just like, this is becoming an issue. Here we go. So she was now becoming a liability to Rome. So he was like, let's push forward.
Yeah.
And of course, like, Cleopatra and whatnot, so Cleopatra and Antony decided they would sail together to Rome and publicly separate him. That's where he publicly separated himself from Octavia, and then that's when hostile relations started to take charge. So finally, Octavian was like, that was like the last straw. He was like, I'm done. Here we go. I'm pushing my army out towards you. And of course, like, Antony and Cleopatra were like, oh shit. Here we go. This is another battle. Dang. So they were around, like, the Mediterranean, so around, like, the ocean area where the battle started to break out. And of course, like, there was just so much death and bloodshed just going on. It was September of 31 BCE. Antony's land forces were being blocked, and the Battle of Actium occurred. So this was a huge battle between Octavian's army and Antony's. And of course, Cleopatra and Antony were, like, right in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. So it's surprising that they actually made it out alive. Because, of course, like, they're being blocked. So because they were trying to go back to Alexandria. They're like, we cannot stay here on this side of the area. Because Octavian's military is just going to get a hold of us. And we can't let that. Like, they were trying everything to not be captured by Octavian. Because they knew that it was not going to end well. Because they were either going to be executed or they were going to be imprisoned for the rest of their lives. And they're like, I would rather not.
That makes sense.
So it was shocking. Cleo and Antony got away alive and decided from there that they would separate for the time being. Antony would go back to Libya, and Cleo would go back to Alexandria. Now, they were only separated for a few days until Antony decided to go to Alexandria, where they would meet back up. And she would pretty much go straight to her throne and just pretend that nothing was wrong. She was like, I can't believe that just ensued. I don't even want to think about it. And of course, like, in the back of her mind, she was probably like, Octavian's really pissed. And he is going to take full measures into this. And she wanted to ignore it because she just didn't want to have her people think any less of her, because she started to do pretty well for her country and kind of gain back that trust of her people. Yeah. But it was no longer going to be that cause if Octavian is coming for her. So she's like, I really fucked this up. Mm-hmm. So her response was denial and ignoring. Damn. So that's what she did. Now, Caesarion, or Little Caesar, was now coming of age. So he was like 13 now.
Oh, 12, exciting.
I don't know. Young. And instead of just acknowledging that there was issues going on, Cleopatra decided to hold a festival for her son. So pretty much just like everybody was partying like, oh my god, this guy's coming of age. He's gonna rule soon. Woo! Mm-hmm. And she's just in the back like on the lookout for Octavian like, oh shit, like, this is not gonna be well. I'm not excited for this. Now, she was planning to leave at one point. Her throne, she was just like, she knew Octavian was coming. So she was planning a final exile for herself and her son. She was actually going to send little Caesar to, I think it was like Thailand, but Octavian's, like, anytime she was going to send something out, like, Octavian's, like, army was like, no, and kind of shot it down.
Gotcha.
So there was no way that she could leave Alexandria, and that was his whole intention. He was just like, I am going to block her in. Yeah. And block Antony in, because they were both in Alexandria at this point, and he was like, even better. I don't have to go to two places to take him down. Mm-hmm. So Octavian just drew closer, and she's like, she was playing this facade that everything was okay. Yeah. When it really wasn't. And she wanted to leave Egypt to finally exile herself. Be like, I cannot do this anymore. I don't want to have any relations. She's like, I stuck to Rome like glue when I really didn't want to. Like, her initial, what she really wanted was to keep Egypt. But instead, she kept getting in these nasty relationships with Roman men. And that was causing issues for her own land, and which would cause the downfall of the Egyptian family or the Egyptian monarchy. That's pretty much what it came down to. Now, with Octavian getting closer, Cleopatra reached out to Octavian offering her abdication. She was like, hey, I don't have to, you can just take it, leave me out of it. I'm abdicating the throne. You can go do whatever you want. Please leave my children out of this. Yeah. He did not listen. He never responded. He was like, I don't give a fuck. He's like, you have done way too much of all of this going on. I'm over it. We're going to settle this. Dang. So Octavian was serious about this, and of course Cleopatra was like, my charm isn't working on him. Yeah. She's like, this has never happened before. Yeah, so like this charm for Octavian just was not a thing like it was for Caesar and Antony. Yeah. So she's like, I don't know what to do. Because she has used her charm out of everything. She's like, how else do I do this? Mm-hmm. So now she has to think of like her last resort. Yeah. Of what to do. Right. Now, Octavian started getting closer to Alexandria and would finally enter the land on July 29th, 30 BCE. Antony used his troops to fight Octavian, but he was losing, and he was losing fast. So he really thought that he had it in the bag, especially with, like, any help from Cleopatra's, army, but it just wasn't enough. Like, Octavian, was ready to take it. He was like, I'm not dealing with this anymore. So Cleopatra, not wanting to be caught by his hands, fled to her treasury comes mausoleum in the royal palace. She was like, I gotta get out of here. She's like, I can't be in the main palace. I gotta hide. Yeah, definitely. Because at first she was just like, she was really hoping that Antony could take Octavian's army down. And that's what I kind of wonder. I'm like, what if he did? What would have changed? It is interesting. If Antony became the ruler of Rome. Yeah. It's a good what if question. It is. Cleopatra would have still been alive. That's true. She wouldn't have done what she did. But who knows? It's a what if that we'll never know. Maybe in a different reality. That is interesting. Wow. Mm-hmm. Now, what is said next about Antony's death is not really 100%. So with Antony's death, it is the one thing that I found is that he took his own life by his own sword when he heard that Cleopatra had died, had taken like her own life, and so he decided to impale himself, be like, I cannot do this. We are going to fail. So he decided. Plus, I think it was like his love for her, like, oh my gosh, it's like a Romeo and Juliet moment. Yeah. So pretty much just killed himself.
Okay.
The real thing, I think he probably just got murdered by one of the soldiers. That's my guess.
It happens.
It's really hard to tell, especially in ancient history, of like what's right and what's true and what's false.
It's hard to know, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it has to be reported several times by different perspectives correctly for it to really be considered. But in a lot of things, yeah, we have like the writings and stuff. So what I'm saying is probably mostly true.
But you could easily just be like, this happened, and then it actually didn't, but just keep telling people that, and then they believe it, and then they pass it on.
I mean, that's what mythology became.
Yep.
So, it is what it is. Now, with Cleopatra death is not really known of, like, what 100% happened.
Uh-huh.
People all have their speculations of what happened, but, of course, she received news that Antony had died. So she was just like, we're not going to win this war. She's like, I will not go to Rome in prison, and I will not be executed by this Roman man.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm not going to do that. So what we do know is that Cleopatra committed suicide.
Okay.
What we're not entirely sure of is by what.
Yeah, like how it happened.
Mm-hmm. All we know is that she was presumed dead on August 10th, and that she could have been killed by suicide from a viper, like a snake, by its venom.
Yeah.
And I even saw one that it was by like a poisonous comb.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I think nonetheless she died, she committed suicide. She did not want to get taken by Octavian, which I get. Like, yeah. I respect that. Like,
a lot of fear would be going on.
A lot of people say that, like, that's the coward's way to go, but it's just, like, she did not want to be taken prisoner by him because she knew it would be bad. So she was just like, I'm ending this line, and she did it on her own terms instead of it being taken from her. Egypt would then fall to Rome because no longer did they have, I guess, Cleopatra to take the throne or even to carry for it, but her memory would live on. Cleo wanted the ancient tradition of Egypt to live on, but that was never going to be the case. Not with the destruction of the Ptolemy period caused. Because the Ptolemy period was just chaos of just trying to handle drought and just people uprising against them, but they couldn't get out of it. They were no Alexander. In the aftermath of the fall of Egypt, the land had been completely controlled by Rome. Grain ships sailed to Rome to feed its people, so they pretty much used Rome for the time being as just a grain export. Yeah. They just took their food and was just like, we gotta go feed our people. Good luck. Figure it out. So, and of course they probably had like Roman soldiers to keep after them, but there was no more pharaohs. Yeah. They were gone. The palace was just nothing more than an old ruin at that point. Now the children, of course we have 4 children to worry about. Right. Not all lives were spared, unfortunately. Oh, man. Unlike the twins in Philadelphus, who was sent to Rome and raised actually by Octavia, which I read. Yeah, I was like, God. Oh, I would be petty. Yikes. Yeesh. Just looking at the children being like, you children are the fucking worst. Right. Ptolemy Caesar would be murdered by the word from Octavian. Because since he was technically the next in line to the throne, he was just like, we're making sure that all ties to next in line is cut off. So, and I'm surprised he didn't kill the other 3, but they were just so young. He was like, well, technically, like, there is no direct line next, so we're ending it here. So Cleopatra was the last pharaoh of Egypt. Wow. And they never found her body. Damn. So, and the thing with pharaohs is that the death process takes months. So, like with King Tut, so this is getting into just kind of the idea of like trying to find her and stuff. Yeah. Is that Valley of the Kings and Queens is very far from Alexandria, like like opposite sides of the river, or like opposite like lengths of the river.
Yeah.
And pretty much with like King Tut that we know was that his death was very sudden, and they just pushed as much as they could for like to send him into the afterlife. Like like there's a lot that we found in his tomb, but it was not compared to like the other tombs that we've also excavated and have been ransacked and robbed. So it's like, can't imagine how many grave goods they had.
Right.
But with Cleopatra, I'm wondering if they even had that for her. Because her death was honestly very sudden, and it pretty much, she had no plan of dying anytime soon.
Yeah, they weren't able to prepare. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then being controlled by Rome after that is like, did she get that proper burial in Valley of the Queens or Valley of the Kings? Like, did she ever get that? I don't think she did.
Yeah, no.
I think she was buried somewhere in Alexandria. I'm not completely sure where, because it's not really known, but I think they kept her in Alexandria. I think maybe she's somewhere hidden underneath her temple that she created, or maybe just she could be under someone's house right now.
Right.
Like, who knows?
It's probably somewhere not obvious, but I feel like it is there as well. Yeah.
And it sucks too that when I was watching that TV show today, they said with Alexandria, a lot of the ancient ruins are now underwater because of earthquakes that have occurred over history. So maybe her body's underwater, and that's what they were also trying to find, was her body.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're ever going to find it.
Right, at this point.
Yeah, because I think if it was lost in the ocean, I think it's going to be forever lost in the ocean.
Yeah.
But it's just, with her death, I think she did not get the proper burial that a normal pharaoh would get.
Yeah, that's sad.
Unless, like, somehow the people came together to give her one. But I honestly don't think so, with them going through the chaos of Rome.
My God, that's crazy. That's sad. Sad ending.
It really is, because she's such an iconic figure.
Right.
For ancient Egypt, because when you think of, even though the most famous pharaoh out of Egypt is Ramses the second, the one that you think of the most is Cleopatra.
Right.
Or King Tut.
She's probably the most popular.
I don't know. Maybe we could do a poll on, like, who's more popular, King Tut or Cleopatra.
Yeah, like, who do you know more about?
I feel like more people know about Cleopatra or King Tut because they found his body, and then they pretty much found his grave goods and just, like, the story from it. Whereas, like, with Cleopatra, like, there's so much mystery to it that even though it doesn't seem that long ago.
Right. Well, we'll do a poll and we'll let you guys know next week.
I think it would be very interesting.
Yeah.
But with her, it makes me sad.
That is sad.
What'd you learn?
Sometimes it's not always a happy ending.
Honestly.
But, you know, she had a pretty good life. Successful.
She
did a lot.
Wild life.
Yeah. I'm, like, trying to think of a word to describe it.
I mean, being with two men.
Eventful.
Two powerful men.
Right. Lots of power going on there.
But I think she just chose the wrong ones.
Yeah.
Maybe she should have been with... I wonder what she would have done if she chose Octavian. Another what if. There's so many what ifs in her story.
Right. Like, and things that we don't even know about.
Honestly. There's still probably a lot more that we don't know about.
Yeah.
But I think it would be, like, one of the biggest achievements if we could find anything that correlated to her.
Right.
In her reign. But honestly, I don't think we will, because Alexandria is just... It's a fully developed area now, and it's kind of hard to find because a lot of the artifacts that they look for are in the water.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't know.
Right.
But So, sorry this one isn't as long as last week's, but, like, it is the end. It is the end.
The end. Yep.
The end.
Thanks for listening, guys, to part 2.
Yes, where can you find us, Kylie?
You can find us on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram on History of the Podcast. If you guys have any, like, requests or you just want to say hi, you can email us at historyofthepodcast@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. All right.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll give you a good one next week.
Heck yeah, stay tuned for the month of March. You guys are already middle March. We're still in February, so.
I promise you I won't do anything about leprechauns.
Oh, God. I always forget about that holiday. All right.
Catch you guys. Have a good St. Patty's Day.
Yep.
If it's coming up.
I think what day is that?
You know, I always thought it was the 25th for some reason.
It's the 17th,
but it's the 17th, yeah.
So I think this episode is coming out the day after, maybe?
I don't know. Well, I hope you had a good St. Patty's, or you will.
This is the weekend before.
Have a great St. Patty's. Stay smart. Be safe.
I don't know. Maybe not. Okay. I can't do bad.
Okay.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye.